It was a firm, off-kilter trait, however the world looked as Britain's previous king talked about his shocking resignation alongside the lady he left imperial life for. In January 1970, over 50 years before Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's unstable Oprah Winfrey talk, previous King Edward VIII and his American spouse Wallis Simpson plunked down with the BBC for a comparative tell-all meeting to introduce their own side to the tale of the century. The subsequent discussion, with questioner Kenneth Harris, was watched by 12 million individuals in the UK alone, similar number of Britons who checked out ITV to watch the homegrown transmission of Harry's US interview. The Duke's surrender, which happened in December 1936, shook the government and the country to its centre, much as Harry and Meghan's takeoff from illustrious life and resulting disclosures have done. Subsequent to getting his desire and wedding Wallis, in Tours, France, a year after he stopped to be king, Edward is said to have been forestalled by his sibling, King George VI, from getting back to live in Britain. In what might later be repeated by Harry in his talk with Oprah, where he said he had the option to leave the framework, Edward discussed how he never felt part of the foundation, since he was independent. Asked if his impact with the government and his relatives would have happened regardless of whether he had stayed a single man, Edward answered, "Indeed, unquestionably." Furthermore, in contrast to Harry and Meghan, who showed up generally calm in Oprah's organization, both the Duke and Duchess showed up entirely awkward. The Duke is said to have experienced some sudden nerves the night prior to the meeting was recorded, in late 1969, and attempted to pull out. In any case, it was past the point of no return, thus the visit proceeded with the pair wriggling in their seats. Similarly, as it was accounted for that Oprah had been attempting to talk with Meghan in any event, when she was still solidly some portion of the illustrious setup, Harris spent numerous years attempting to convince Edward to converse with him. Also, rather than how Meghan initially talked with Oprah before Harry showed up, Edward and Wallis addressed Harris together before the questioner scrutinized the previous ruler all alone. The inquiry which numerous Britons will have needed to ask the pair was the torment of surrendering the seat and the advantages that accompanied it worth the existence they had at that point? The couple lived in a rich property in Paris and furthermore had an occasion home in the French open country. They spent April, May and June in the US and weeks in the late spring in Spain and Portugal. Nonetheless, they had likewise been removed of any conceivable part in the UK, and Edward had estranged his mom, Queen Mary, in deciding to renounce and wed Wallis. The split with his mom was awful to such an extent that Wallis uncovered in her life account she got no answer after she wrote to Queen Mary to communicate her lament that she had been the reason for any detachment that exists among mother and son. Edward's relationship with Wallis, who had been twice hitched before her association with him, was an embarrassment when news originally arose of it. His suggestion to wed her, while separate from procedures with her subsequent spouse were all the while progressing, started a sacred emergency which finished in Edward's choice to renounce. Wallis depicted in her personal history how she got disdain mail from individuals scandalized by her relationship with Edward. She composed, "There can be not many swear words appropriate to my sex that were absent from my mourning plate." After his resignation, Edward was made the Duke of Windsor by his sibling and allowed the style of His Royal Highness. Be that as it may, after their 1937 marriage and choice to get comfortable France, Edward was angry with George VI's choice to give letters patent which denied Wallis the style of Her Royal Highness. Edward got a tax-exempt remittance from his sibling which went some approach to keeping up his and Wallis' extravagant way of life. He likewise brought in cash from unlawful money exchanging. The troublesome relationship which Edward had with his family after his surrender was portrayed broadly in Peter Morgan's Netflix show The Crown. Yet, when asked by Harris on the off chance that she had any second thoughts, Wallis prudently answered, "Goodness, about specific things, yes. I wish it might have been unique, however I'm amazingly cheerful. Normally you've had some tough situations, however who hasn't? You simply need to figure out how to live with that." And when asked what the mystery was to looking youthful, Wallis answered, "I think joy is an extraordinary mystery to what you look like and feel maybe. We have been upbeat." After she said this, Edward clumsily snatched her hand and held it firmly. Talking about her significant other's period as king, Wallis said, "I think he was somewhat revolutionary, I think he had bunches of kick and was relatively radical. I think he needed to build up things, not prepared for them actually maybe." Perhaps disappointingly for watchers, Edward anyway remained genuinely quieted about the 1936 embarrassment and his family connections. Inquired as to whether he was a changing lord, the Duke answered, "I had heaps of political originations, yet I remained quiet about them. That is the practice of the imperial family." In 1940, Edward was designated as governor of the Bahamas, a job which he held until 1945. Yet, when inquired as to whether he would have gotten a kick out of the chance to have had another work subsequently, he said he offered my administrations, however was never given another job. Inquired as to why that was, he answered, "You'd need to ask. The majority of individuals, I'm apprehensive, are underground now who forestalled me. Gracious, I don't have any acquaintance with, it is difficult to say." And when addressed regarding when he originally had struggle with the government in Britain, the Duke related how, before he was king, the at that point Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin questioned his choice to visit Northumberland. He said, "For what reason are you going up there, a lot of other significant activities?" I said, "No, Mr. Baldwin, the first think it is vital to perceive how, we can't give these individuals a work. Some of them have been out for a very long time." Mr. Baldwin out of nowhere got aware of the way that he and his administration had really done next to no to reduce the situation of the jobless, of which there were thousands around then. The Duke at that point obviously added, "When I left, I pondered internally he was starting to drag me into legislative issues excessively far. What's more, as we as a whole know, governmental issues is the one thing the imperial family needs to dodge, even whatever amount of they may jump at the chance to communicate their suppositions." Harris likewise got some information about how he wouldn't go in a Rolls-Royce to visit a helpless piece of Britain. "I didn't think it was a reasonable vehicle for that," he said. "I went around in a standard vehicle, it was more appropriate." Asked how he continued ahead with Liberal Prime Minister Lloyd George, Edward answered, "I got on fine with him. He was a brilliant, great man. He showed me not many expressions of Welsh that I needed to talk at the hour of my instatement at Carnarvon in 1911. The service which saw Edward become Prince of Wales was repeated almost 60 years after the fact when his extraordinary nephew Prince Charles, on a similar spot at Carnarvon Castle, acquiesced to the title. The event and approach Charles's need to give his discourse in Welsh was additionally portrayed in The Crown. Gotten some information about different government officials, Edward portrayed how he was given assistance with his discourses by wartime Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill, who he depicted as an incredible companion. January 1931 Wallis meets Prince Edward in January 1931, subsequent to being presented through her companion Lady Furness 1931–1934 The American divorced person and the beneficiary to the seat see each other routinely at different parties August 1934 Wallis concedes she and Edward are not, at this point only companions, in the wake of going along with him on a cruise January 1936 King George V kicks the bucket. Edward requests Wallis to watch the declaration from his promotion with him from St. James's Palace August 1936 The pair appreciate a journey around the Adriatic Ocean with companions. Subtleties of their relationship show up in the American press December 11, 1936 Edward reports his relinquishment June 3, 1937 The couple get hitched in the south of France. Wallis was officially known as the Duchess of Windsor, yet was not permitted to share her significant other's title of Imperial Highness. But on the most troublesome subject of his surrender, Edward talked most revealingly when he was asked what he implied by the foundation. He said, "The foundation was another word to me until around 15 years prior, when I heard it and requested that individuals disclose it to me. It is anything but a simple word to clarify. It's somewhat a dark word. Yet, it should have consistently existed. I think it implies authority of the law, of the congregation, the ruler to a limited degree." Edward at that point discussed how he read a portrayal of Prince Philip as being not actually an individual from the establishment, which, a little further down added that nor was he. He at that point added, "I believe that is extremely evident." He said that his dad, King George V, surely was just like his sibling Albert, who proceeded to become George VI after Edward's resignation. Edward conceded that he crashed into the foundation, albeit not viciously. Furthermore, regardless of whether he had not experienced passionate feelings for Wallis and rather stayed single, Edward added that his crash would certainly have been unavoidable. In any case, not bad, he said. I think possibly, I don't have a clue, maybe I'm being proud, however I think it might have helped the foundation as well. I think it might have resuscitated the thinking about the establishment. The establishment has a moderate angle, I think. I think it revivifies itself. Be that as it may, I think it most likely requirements a little lead from the monarch. There was no notice in the meeting of Edward and Wallis' visit to meet Adolf Hitler in Germany in 1937, where he was notoriously shot giving a Nazi salute. Edward additionally visited modern offices in Nazi Germany and surprisingly an inhumane imprisonment, whose watchman towers. WER.